Welcome to the 78th installment of Ear to the Ground, the Land Stewardship Project's audio podcast on family farming, sustainable agriculture, local food systems, and local democracy. I'm Brian DeVore, editor of the Land Stewardship Letter. Rachel Henderson and Anton Patak are launching their farming operation from afar. The 2009 graduates of the Land Stewardship Project's Farm Beginnings program have recently purchased 20 acres of farmland in western Wisconsin, some 80 miles from their home in northeast Minneapolis. Both Anton and Rachel have full-time jobs in the Twin Cities, but during the past year or so, they've been working their land on weekends and during vacations to prepare it for the day when they become full-time farmers. So far, the 30-something couple has planted a variety of fruit trees, including apples, pears, cherries, plums, and apricots. They've also established other perennials such as currants, grapes, rhubarb, and asparagus. The idea is to get a type of permaculture system set up, one that does not have to be intensely managed on a daily basis, at least for now. Many of the trees should be producing fruit consistently in the next 5 years or so. By that time, Rachel and Anton hope to be living on the land full-time. They are spending the intervening years setting up the farm by establishing outbuildings, fencing, and other structures, including a house. Rachel and Anton are also spending this time researching markets for fruit and other products in the area and figuring out what types of equipment they will need once the farm is running full bore. The couple's hope is that by the time they are on the land full-time, they will have their real estate loan almost paid off and can start utilizing the income from their fruit trees and other plants to support themselves and the farm. It's a strategy that is somewhat low risk, since they aren't taking on huge amounts of farm infrastructure debt right off the bat. But Anton and Rachel concede they are also struggling with some major unknowns, such as what kind of market there will be for their products 5 years down the road. Such a strategy requires a lot of goal setting and financial planning. I recently visited the couple's farms. They did some weekend tree planting. They took a break to talk about how Farm Beginnings has helped them set goals and plan things out years in advance. Anton and Rachel also talked about some of the challenges they face launching a farming operation as absentee landowners.
When we started looking at farms, I think we had lots of different ideas floating around in our heads about what we might like to do when we were visiting CSA farms and pig farms and all kinds of different things and thinking about different things. And I think as we started really realistically looking at our 5-year goals, 3-year goals, middle term goals, I think that fruit trees just became the logical starting point for us. And it's something that we're interested in and passionate about and excited about. Yeah,
I echo that. It seemed to be the thing that we could start that would make sense with where we're at in our transition plan. And since then, we've met a lot of fruit growers, and they're all fairly happy people, and they're all really pretty friendly and helpful. And we've met a really great community of people, actually. So made some good friends out of our just asking questions and seeing who else can help us out with their knowledge, and it's been really fun.
One of the things I know that Farm Beginnings does, it really stresses goal setting, kind of looking at not just kind of plunging into it and saying, well, we're going to farm, plain and simple, but setting up goals. Well, what do you want to do with this land? Where do you want it to be in 5 years, in 10 years? What are your economic quality of life goals? Was that something that was important for you guys, was to kind of set up goals before you went in?
Definitely. And I'll say that, I found the goal-setting process in Farm Beginnings, for me, to be very intuitive. And I think maybe partly because we don't come from a farming background or because we didn't have a lot of expectations about what farming would look like, I think we were maybe a little bit, I don't know, it seemed easy for us to approach this from a quality of life or holistic goal frame of mind, if that makes any sense. But I think it was really, really valuable to be kind of forced to write that stuff down and really talk about it, be honest with ourselves and to be talking about it with each other. I think that was one of the most valuable parts of Farm Beginnings, but definitely embrace that.
Looking at 5-year horizon seemed to be a really valuable tool for us. I think it was a lot easier to wrap our hands around that than it was to think about what we were going to look like in a year or two. That was just kind of nice to figure, these are the preliminary steps we have to do to kind of get to at least, this one facet of what we're going to do kind of in place in 5 years. But yeah, very helpful.
One thing that was challenging about us for Farm Beginnings is I think there were, there's so much of what's in the curriculum that's really universal, and then there's some things where, I don't think that they had a lot of fruit growers, and so we kept getting in the marketing and in the financial planning, aspects. They kept saying, don't plant anything until you've sold it, which was hard for us to parse out what to do with that advice, because we obviously couldn't sell apples for 2014. I don't think we haven't found out who's buying them 7 years in the future, but we do. So it's there's a little bit of both here. There's a little bit of a risk and a gamble that what we're planting is going to be marketable. I mean, we've tried to do as much research as we can to know what varieties, and we've done quite a bit of thinking about marketing strategies, and we've done a lot of networking and communicating with people, and we feel good about our marketing plan, but it's not the same as having your CSA shares sold or your half cow sold. I mean, there's more risk.
Seed order or ordering livestock.
Right, exactly. Like we're not making our seed order based on what we know we're going to sell. We're making our seed order based on what we want to grow and what we think we can sell, and what growing maturity times and all kinds of different aspects. But I think for us, especially doing a diverse mix of fruit, there's a little bit of there's a scarcity of knowledge on that. There's a scarcity of research. There's a scarcity of people to consult on that to some extent. So we are taking on some risk there, I think.
Maybe you could say business planning for the diversified perennials is nebulous at best. Yeah, it's just a very tough thing to wrap your arms around. But we every year we kind of take another stab at it, and we've got a enterprise budget that goes out 10 years, and we're trying to make assumptions in there that seem reasonable and stuff, and we'll just kind of see how it all plays out.
And we are trying to have, do some networking and have some conversations with who we think could be our prospective market, and trying to get a sense of what people want and that kind of thing. But again, like I said, it's not the same as having a share sold.
And another nice thing about the perennials too is a lot of them kind of ramp up production gradually, especially with certain apples on kind of your, I'll just take an example of like your semi-dwarf apple, kind of a tree that's 10 to 12 feet high. It starts production maybe in year 3, and you get a little bit more every year. And then by the year 10, you're full rolling, maybe 8, year 8 to 10, you're full production. But you kind of have this increase that's kind of gradual over the course of those other years. And so you're kind of, each year you can kind of take on a little bit more. And with each crop, there's some risk going from, depending on when you get the frosts, and that's just kind of one of the reasons why we're trying to be diversified and spread out the risk over a whole bunch of different things.
As you've gotten started and actually gone through the reality of getting started, a farm started, as opposed to sitting in class or going to other farms or dreaming about it, what's been the biggest surprise, I guess, either unpleasant or pleasant surprise that you guys maybe have run up against?
Let's see, organizationally, it's really tough living in one place and doing all your work in another one, because you can leave some stuff here, but there's always something you forget, and a lot of miles in the car, and then, there's always things that you forget, and then you need to run into town, and we spend a lot more time in our cars now, obviously. It's just a necessary thing. You can't just jump on your bike and run to the store. I don't know, and, I maybe didn't anticipate, the depth of that before kind of getting into this. But I just, learning to live with it. And I think also it just kind of indicates, maybe the transition plan is going to be shortened a little bit. And we're going to try to get out here a little bit earlier maybe than we were initially thinking, just to kind of cut out some of that stuff, just like be out here, not have to worry about forgetting things or running to get something we forgot. And just being able to spend more time actually doing stuff rather than planning during the week what we're going to take out and what things we forgot to do. And organizationally, it's a challenge.
I'll add something to that. And I think that goes along with that challenge is that, for me, being in the city, there's a little bit of out of sight, out of mind, that goes on, which even though, I'm thinking about the farm and planning for the weekend, and Anton's much better about this than I am, but I get wrapped up in my week and have a hard time doing what I know we need to do to get up, before the weekend, or what can be done from the city. And so there's I think once being out here, it's easy to think about what you have to get done and be aware of the challenges and be aware of what you need. But when you're not there, it's easy for it to get lost in the shuffle. This is the reason that we're doing this in the first place. But I think that one thing last summer that I was aware of was just how much I love being here and how much energy I get from being here. There were definitely weeks last summer where I'd be, working all Monday through Friday in the city and thinking, God, we have so much to do, and not feeling that energy, and then getting out here on Friday afternoon or Saturday morning or whenever it was, and just really feeling this overwhelming sense of well-being, like just excited and motivated and happy. And so that's definitely, as we've gotten started, the pleasant surprise is how easy it is to work hard and get all of this stuff done when we just feel good about being here.
For more on Farm Beginnings, see www.farmbeginnings.org. That's www.farmbeginnings.org. If you have comments or suggestions about this podcast, contact Brian DeVore at bdevore@landstewardshipproject.org, or you can call 612-722-6377. Thanks to Laura Borgendale, a Western Minnesota musician, for Ear to the Ground's theme music, and a special thank you to all of Land Stewardship Project's members who make initiatives such as this podcast possible. If you're not a member, visit landstewardshipproject.org to learn how you can support LSP. Thanks for listening.